Okay, so before we get started, I want to show you actually what comes in GKtech kit. Just want to warn you, I already installed these parts and then uninstalled them, so I can make this video to show you how to actually install it. So that's why there's a little bit of wear and tear in the parts already. So you have the actual shifter itself that comes with a little brass fitting. You have the collar piece. This goes into the upside down base of there to hold it in. Replaces the plastic piece. And then I recommend getting a brand new boot to install because the old ones are going to be worn and just not good. So, okay, so before we actually install the GKtech shifter, I wanted to compare them side by side. On the NISMO one, I actually have the brass fitting from GKtech already installed when I installed the NISMO shifter. So this NISMO shifter has been in there for about 5 years and it's had a little bit of wear and tear. So what happened is it had separated, and this happened when I'm driving, so I had to use a little nub to drive with. So that's why I was in the market for a new shifter. They're both about 10% shortened throw, but as you can see, once it's fully together, GKtech actually has a shorter stock as well, so it actually brings it closer and a little bit more comfortable to shift. Also, if you look at the NISMO shifter, it has a little rubber bushing on the inside that holds it together. And it's a two-piece setup, so it actually creates a little bit of flex when you're shifting and makes it a little bit more spongy, which I didn't like that. So with the GKtech, it's actually a one-piece part, so you see you don't get all that extra flex that the NISMO had. So it actually makes it a lot more comfortable to drive, and you can feel the shifts a little bit better. So everything I have here is everything you're going to need to install the short throw shifter, or pretty much any short throw shifter, into an RB26 R32 GTR. Obviously, you'll need the GKtech kit with the extra boot. This is extra. Make sure you order this. If you don't, you can use your old one, but I recommend getting a new one just because you're going to be in there. Sometimes some transmission fluid spills out of here if it's not, sealed enough. So I recommend getting a new one of those. And then you're going to need some diagonal cutters or wire cutters. Any size is fine, large, small. It's just pretty much for cutting a zip tie around the old boot. Then you're going to need a 4mm Allen head or just a generic Allen set. One of these should fit. I recommend using just a little bit of blue thread locker when you're installing the set screw for this piece because it does kind of, just in case. Then you're going to need a Phillips head and a flat head. Not a large flat head, a small one. It's going to be able to fit in to get that C-clip out. And to pry it out properly. Then you're going to need some C-clip pliers, the ones that actually close. I have a good set of ones that open the C-clip, but that's not the ones you need. Make sure you get the ones that close. So I'm kind of using these universal ones that you can change out. It's not that great, but it gets the job done. So that's pretty much everything you need for actually installing this kit. So let's get started with the install. One more thing you're going to need is just a little grease for this area of the shifter, just to make sure it has enough lubrication. Okay, so the first step is going to be removing the shift knob. You just simply turn it counterclockwise until it comes off. Okay, the next step for the R32 GTR is to pinch right here and lift up, and then sort of push it forward, and then take it off. Two things you want to be careful about are these two little tabs right here. They tend to break, and this whole entire piece is around $100 brand new, so you don't want to break these little tabs because it'll just flop around in there. Another thing is this little rubber grommet tends to get stuck on the actual shifter, so make sure this actually comes off, and if it doesn't, then remove it from your shifter and reinstall it back onto the shift boot. Okay, so now the next step is to remove your ashtray, which I don't currently have installed, so I'm going to skip that step, but you still have to remove your ashtray if you have it. Then you're going to take your Phillips head, and you're going to uninstall 3 screws in order to take out your center console. Okay, so once you've taken those screws out, what you're going to do is you're going to take the base of the center console and you're going to lift up and pop it out of the little inserts that it has right here. You're going to move the emergency brake out of the way. So my car's up on chocks, so that's why the emergency brake wasn't up. And you're going to lift up from the base, and you may have to pop off up here, but it should come right off. Then you're going to have a few things to disconnect. So I have already disconnected this hose right here. So you're going to need to disconnect this hose from here. And then you're going to need to disconnect this temperature wire and your cigarette lighter if it is installed, but mine currently is not. So I don't have to worry about that. And you're going to set this aside. Okay, so the next step is going to be removing these 4 bolts right here in order to get this rubber boot off. Now this part I like to keep the bolts actually in there because it holds the rubber boot to the metal ring. Mine's a little bit old, so it has separated. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be together, but mine is definitely separated and kind of hard to get back together. So that's why I like to keep the bolts in there when I'm removing it. It's so floppy. Alright, let's set that aside. Okay, for the next step, you're going to need your diagonal cutters. And you're going to actually cut the zip ties holding the top part and the bottom part of the boot together, but I don't currently have the zip ties attached, so I'm not going to do that, but you're going to need to do that if you haven't changed out your shifter yet. So I know I showed you before, but the main reason why I'm changing my shifter out is because this part actually came off of the shifter and I needed a new one. So I had to shift like this on the way home when it came apart. So the next step would be to remove this boot, sort of flip it inside out. I could easily just poop and take it out, but yours is probably together, so you won't be able to do that. I'm going to remove it just to make it easier and show you what's going on underneath. So the next step is sort of using these 2 little notches you'll see and a flathead screwdriver. You want to make sure it's not too big because it has to be able to fit into these notches because it'll make it 10 times easier to actually do it. So you're going to place it into the notch and you're going to pry that little C-clip out on both sides. So yeah, just make sure you be careful when you do that so that doesn't go flying. So the next step is getting this little C-clip out, which it should be easy since it doesn't have that little retainer clip inside of it. So we'll just, that just kind of fell out, and put that aside for you. So after that's done, this shifter should come straight out. You might have used a little bit of force, but yep, not that much. So my cup sort of doesn't come out all the way, so I just leave it in there. So what we can do is assemble it piece by piece. And that's what we're going to do with the new shifter. So you're going to put this to the side or in the trash or wherever you want to do and start with the new shifter installation. Okay, once you have your new shifter, what you're going to do is you're going to grease this ball. And I'd put a little grease on here as well. I've already done it. I know it doesn't look like much, but it's on there. And then you're going to line it up to slowly place little brass fitting into the hole. That way it'll all line up when it goes in, and you have to be very patient and yeah, don't lose your temper on this one. There you go. Put a seat in there and just, yeah, that's good. Okay, the next step is to take the little spacer that's provided by GKtech and slide it over the top. And you're going to want the conical side down so it fits with the little ball down there. And you're going to take your retaining clip and sort of set it on top and grab your flathead screwdriver once again. So what you want to do is to slide one side in and then use that same notch you used before to pry it in, and it's going to sit on that ring right there. And then you'll take this other notch, plop it in there, so that way it sits in there nice. Oop. So once you get that little retaining clip, you're going to take the other C-clip, slide it over top, and you're going to sort of set it on top of that retaining clip, and then take your C-clip pliers and pinch it closed so that it slides underneath that retaining clip. Once that's in there, this won't come out. And what you'll want to do at this point is to verify that it actually goes through all the gears. First, second, third, fourth, fifth, reverse. Okay, the next step is going to be taking the boot, the new boot, and installing it over. And then you're going to zip tie the bottom and the top to keep it into place and to stop some of the transmission fluid from coming out if it does happen to splash up here. My zip ties are just ran out, so I need to go get some more. So I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to continue with the process. Next step would be getting the rubber boot to install. See how it all stays together if you leave the bolts in. You just slide it through here. Might get caught, but should be fine. Okay, once that's all installed, you're going to want to take your little weight retaining thingy. Just want to take the tiniest little dab. Loctite. And then now you're going to find the actual little indentation, and that's what the set pin is going to set into. And you're going to plug everything back up. So once you have everything connected and mocked up, I'm just going to leave that there. You're going to place it over, sort of put the top part in first, and then slide it down into the little crevices, then pop it in there. Next step would be installing the 3 screws that you took out. Okay, and you're going to replace your shift boot. Remember, these little tabs go in first. Push that down, and then clockwise on the shift nut. You want to double check all the gears. Alright, then you're good to go. That's the installation of the GKtech short throw shifter.